Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. Well, the clown show in Washington continues on. We are now more than a month into Schumer Shutdown 2.0. Don't fool yourself. This is 100% on the Democrats. However, you have to really question the GOP, especially the eunuch in charge, John Thune, who is so incompetent with the gavel, he can't get anything done. But the guy who's not in charge, Chuck Schumer, can. It amazes me. We hear every 2 years, give us control of Congress. Let us get something done. The people vote in the Republicans and nothing gets done, right? I mean, honestly, tell me this, 15 months now into Thune's running the Senate, having the majority. What have they got done? Name one thing that Congress has got done. Hell, we still don't have nominees that Trump put in confirmed. We can't even get that done. You know, by the time they finally get to it, we'll probably be inaugurating J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. There you go. But yesterday was quite humorous. Of course, this was after all the politicians, oh, give us credit. We stayed here for a weekend. We're working extra hours to get this done. I'm like, the people that take 6 months vacation a year, and the 6 months they are working, supposedly, they're putting their hand in everybody's pocket? No, don't cry me a river here because your Saturday was ruined that you actually had to do your job. Newsflash, there's a lot of people in this country that work on Saturdays or have Monday through Friday jobs that go in on Saturday because something's got to get done. You ain't special, okay? Get your job done on Monday through Friday. Maybe you'd have your weekend. What a concept, right? So shut up with the pity party. But so we have this whole big deal going on right now about funding ICE, and that's it, funding DHS as a whole, okay? Not that DHS is a entity that any of us wanted in the first place ever since HW put it in, but okay, this is where it's running. And the one that affects people, more people than we really care to think about, is TSA. Now, I think we'll all agree that TSA is pretty much a nuisance, if you will. Yes, I don't want somebody taking a gun on a plane or a bomb on a plane or something like that. I get it. But, you know, thank God the days of take your shoes off, take your belt off, you know, just get naked to walk through here practically. You know, some of that is starting to end. But if you've been through an airport lately, okay, y'all have seen the videos, New Orleans, Philadelphia, pick some other ones, where the lines to go through TSA security are down the hallway, down the escalator, through baggage claim, and out into the parking lot. Well, get to the airport early because the line to get through TSA is 4.5 hours long, we heard this week. 4.5 hours, okay? And I told you guys I remember being in Seattle a few years back for a 6:30 a.m. flight, and the line was 3 hours long, and we're still standing there, and the airline called me and said, are you going to make this plane? I said, I've been trying. I'm standing here in the TSA line for 3 hours, and finally somebody from the airline came and got me and escorted me through TSA, okay, and running there with holding my pants up because I had to take my belt off and holding my shoes and carrying a suitcase and, you know, all that sort of crap, right? But we made it. Only to get to Minneapolis to find out our next plane was delayed for 5 hours. But that's a whole old story. But so yesterday, Schumer, who doesn't have control of the Senate, forced a vote to fund TSA without funding ICE. Amazing how you can do that. You don't have the authority, but you're able to get a vote to fund TSA, to get something done you want to. But the guy who does have authority can't seem to manage to get a vote on the SAVE Act. Yeah, Eunuch. Of course, the bill didn't pass, which, it was all a dog and pony show in the first place, because the Democrats know they're backed into a corner, and they don't want to have this used against them in the election. So they want to go, see, we put up a bill to fund TSA, and the Republicans voted against it. Right, okay, and the Republicans voted against it because they want the whole thing paid for, okay, ICE included, which again, I go back to, ICE is funded through 2027, all right, so we have that issue anyway, okay, but, they can't wear masks. I mean, the White House and Congress has already said, okay, we'll back off, they can't wear masks with the exception of certain situations, like it's cold in Minnesota, okay, they're going to do that. The warrants, that's a non-starter. You don't need a warrant, okay? Never have, never will. So the Democrats can pound sand on that one. But it's amazing how they are posturing for position only for their reelection. Nothing to protect us. They could give a rat's ass that we're standing in line for hours upon hours. Because when Congress walks through the airport, they want to go home. They're escorted to the front. Oh, Mr. Congressman, Miss Senator, let us walk. You're important. We'll make sure you get to your plane on time. They don't care, okay? You and I are pawns that they can move around on the chessboard. They're the king and the queen. Okay. I hope to God in November we remind them who's the player moving the king and the queen on the chessboard. Okay. It ain't the pawns. But so now the latest threat, I guess, if you will, out of the White House is to have ICE man the TSA checkpoints. I mean, you've already had over 300 TSA agents quit. Okay, said, screw this, we're not getting a paycheck, I'm not going to work. I don't blame them, okay? It's not like these guys are high-paid personnel in the first place. They're paycheck-to-paycheck workers, all right? They don't get a paycheck, the kids don't get food, gas doesn't get put in the car, the rent doesn't get paid. Yeah, they go to work, they expect to get paid, not the furlough crap. Well, you'll get paid back when we fund the government. Screw you, okay? The government shouldn't, Congress shouldn't be getting paid. Not that they care anyway, because they make more money grifting than they ever do in their paycheck. But these people are hurting. Elon Musk came out and said after Bernie's little speech of, Elon Musk has more money than the bottom 53% of the United States. And Elon Musk replied, sure, okay, I volunteer to pay all the TSA agents. What'd you do, Bernie? You got 3 houses, right? You're worth $3 million. You're worth more than 97% of the population of the United States. $3 million is Bernie's net worth. $3 million puts you in the top 3%. Okay. So, yeah, Bernie, shut up. You've never worked a day in your life. The only real job you ever had, you got fired within 48 hours because you didn't do anything. You've never worked a day in your life. You're a grifter. But so the idea now is to have ICE handle TSA. I still think give it back to the airlines. Let the airlines coordinate. Hey, in Terminal A, it's, I don't know, American United and Southwest, good. You guys coordinate and you have the people run security checkpoints. Okay. It's one less government agency. Good idea. Got to be authorized, got to be approved. They got to go through background checks, stuff like that. Sure. But put the onus on the airlines. I think that's a better idea. Because then it wouldn't be a place where the government could hold hostage the American public. Right? But so we want to bring ICE in. And of course the Democrats are screaming bloody murder that, well, this would allow them to arrest people in the airport. Newsflash. ICE can walk into an airport anytime they want and arrest anybody if they're committing a crime. Being illegal, of course, is crime. Okay. In an airport, though, that illegal feasibly has more protection than they do once they step out the door. Because there's plenty of places in the world you can go. You want to fly from the United States to, I don't know, South Korea. And the plane makes a stop in Tokyo. Okay, off the top of my head, I don't know if you need a visa to go to Tokyo. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Okay, just an example. You get off the plane in Tokyo, okay. No big deal. You don't have to go through customs. You don't, nothing, because you're not leaving the airport. You're fine. You go to your connecting flight, you fly over to Seoul or wherever you're going, and then you go through customs. In the airport, you're not going to find somebody that's illegal. They could just be passing through. No problem. Okay? They walk out of the airport, then it's an issue. So the Democrats' argument there is all wet. But you want to bring ICE in? Okay. ICE is already funded. Again, I want to remind everybody that ICE is already funded through next year. As much as the media, the Democrats try to tell you they're not, they are. If you notice, they're still working, okay? And again, ICE agents aren't your uber highly paid analysts working in the Pentagon either, okay? They're maybe a little better than the paycheck-to-paycheck guys, but not super, okay? Hey, you know what? Good. Let's streamline the process. Maybe we can get people to go, you know what? I'm not going to mess with those guys. Let me do it right. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to complain about having to put my purse through the x-ray. I'm just going to do it. I don't know. I thought it was funny. We'll see what happens. But it's another one of these situations where it's all political posturing. Congress doesn't give a shit about any of us. We'll see how this one shakes out. But we ain't heard the last of this, and guaranteed we're going to hear a ton of this going into November. Enjoy Sunday. Pinball out.